Okay, disabled mechanic here, frustrated, annoyed, bored out of my mind, because, yeah, I'm in a pain flare, so I thought I'd make a video. For those of you who don't know me, I've been disabled for good 7, almost 8 years now. Old injuries that never healed, just got worse. Was diagnosed with fibromyalgia back in, I believe it was June 2018. Living in Alberta, I'm now on HHO, so on and so forth. Can't work, can't do much, sometimes can barely even take care of myself, more times than not. I'm also a Jeep driver, modifier, former mechanic, former cabinet maker. And when I get bored and can actually do stuff, I either do minor stuff with my Jeep or putter around the house. When I can't do stuff, usually either gaming, reading, or curl up in the fetal position because the pain meds don't work. Simply put, I do stuff when I can, have to have somebody helping me when I do heavy stuff, so on and so forth. That being said, this video is kind of a Jeep related thing. Reason being, I'm working on my Jeep and plan on posting this to YouTube. For those of you who follow me on TikTok, you'll probably see some of this there, if not all of it, depending on how long it goes. Now, what I've been working on with my Jeep is engine modifications to better the mileage. For those of you who don't know, certain higher-ups have brought in the carbon initiative in Canada and made it a requirement to put 5 to 10% ethanol mix in all levels of gasoline outside the aeronautical industry. That means all your regular octane, everything that you buy at the gas pumps for your cars now in Canada is ethanol mix. Back in 2016, they started it. They didn't enforce it until January this year. Some of us, if not most of us, should have noticed a massive decrease in our mileage. In my case, I went from a lovely 17 to 18 miles per gallon on my Jeep for winter fuel to 15 flat out ever since. And no, it's not because my Jeep's crap. It is because the fuel is crap. Ethanol burns almost twice as fast as gasoline. It's not ethical. It is not economical whatsoever. Anybody in the racing industry will say ethanol burns faster than gasoline. And it costs more to manufacture too. That being said, I went to 15 miles per gallon, and then I installed something that brought me back up to almost 23 miles per gallon. Last summer, I had an average of 24 miles to gallon with my Jeep WJ 2001, has a 4.0, 4x4, and that was running the 4x4 too. Now, running my air conditioning, 4x4, and this new system that I've installed, well, it's not installed now because of leaks, but yeah, it worked. It did great. Now, for those of you who know what hydrogen is, you'll understand where I'm going with this. I used the design and modified it to work on my Jeep. I'm still modifying it. It's still in the prototype stages. There's still a few things I'm waiting on, so on and so forth. As for Jeep modifications, I'll run you over those real quick. I have the Viper coil mod, 14-inch air horn that scares the living daylights out of people. Lots of fun there. And that's pretty much it for this stuff, for basic modifications. That said, On Order should be here sometime later this week, hopefully installing sometime this month, is new set of 6 injectors. The ones I have in this are factory, and they are crap. And that's actually an understatement, because they're over 20 years old. Now, what I have designed and, well, modified the design for and built for this thing is a hydrogen generator. Doesn't look like much, but when you pull it apart, it gets complicated. Kind of looks like an internal system on a battery, eh? It's based off of a design that I saw from a science geek who unfortunately is no longer with us. And his design actually worked kind of great. I will link his video on YouTube for this. Basically, you have the plates, contacts, a pressure relief valve set to 5 to 10 psi. Somewhere down here I will have a vacuum relief valve so that I don't suck the fluids out of this thing and the bubbler that it runs to into the engine and lose what I need. Now, that being said, the contacts, you got the negative, positive. Positive goes to the center. Negative goes to the outer. Now, they are double plate. Both side plates on the center and both outside plates on the sides are negative. I have also coated one and will be coating the other contact cable, or whatever you want to call these, with something that is non-conductive. That way it doesn't short out when you overfill this thing, which is obviously a bad idea, but whatever. Now, in order to get this thing to work, you need voltage and a catalyst in the water, at least to make it work better. You don't really get much if you just use regular water. Now, I use potassium hydroxide. Some people use baking soda and yada yada. If you do use that kind of stuff, even with stainless steel, your plates will look like this. These are actually only steel plates, and that's what potassium hydroxide does after about 2,500 miles. That said, as I was saying earlier, I went from 15 miles per gallon to almost 23 miles per gallon with this thing. Kind of phenomenal considering. And that also being said, with further modifications and whatnot, it will get better. This is actually designed for a 20 volt system. However, because my Jeep's only a 12 volt, it runs off 12 volt. Which means I will get better when I up the voltage. Now, the 12 volt system that I'm talking about, the 12 volt, is just alternator to fuse to switch to this, and then the ground back to the battery. Now, that said, it's grounded to the battery directly for the simple fact a body ground does not work. That's it. That's Ohm's law is the easiest way to put it. Now, that being said, the 20 volt system runs off a 20 volt drill battery, similar to that of DeWalt and so on. Now, that system I am currently working on designing uses a single or pair of solar panels to keep it charged, yada, yada, yada. Still runs off the same wiring system. I'm actually thinking of installing a secondary system in case that battery dies, so I can charge one battery while using the other. And I am also thinking of expanding this to 16 plates of all the same size. Now, that being said, I'm actually thinking 18 plates would probably be better, but either way, according to the Faraday theory, which, if you can find the info on it, it's one of those things that's censored. Faraday theorized that it's 1.24 volts per plate maximum. I'm running approximately, I think, 1.8 volts across all these plates. Something else for you to look at is the neutral plate theory for a hydrogen system generator. Because, yeah, I have 6 neutral plates per side. And if you don't understand that, you need to look up the theory behind it. That being said, this thing, depending on the voltage, puts out between 6 and 12 liters per minute. That is more than enough to boost my dinky little 4-liter. Now, that is also the reason why this thing's there, and once I have this thing installed in the vehicle again, there will actually be a line from that to the outside. That reason being, this thing is installed over the rear wheel well, which means it would vent inside if I just left it like this. Again, that is a pressure relief valve. There will be a vacuum relief valve and new injectors, hopefully sometime this week, if not the next few weeks. Like I was saying, I'm disabled, so I can only do so much for so long, and not very often. At least not without help. Now, the way this thing works is you hook it up, plug it in, turn the switch on, the gases come from this system in this tank and go through a one-way valve, which is this crazy little guy here, into a bubbler, which you can see has water in it right now, which basically cleans out sediment, any excess residues, whatever, and then what's left from that gets sent to the engine. Now, if you stomp on it, because this is a pressure/vacuum collection system, it will suck water out of this. Now, if it sucks the water out of that into your engine, it can do damage. Hence the reason for the vacuum relief valve. Now, the reason why I'm setting this up for this is because this is not only a prototype system right now, but I want to be able to build a system that I can put together a kit and put in a vehicle. Now, right now, this system, because there's not much room in here, this system has to go in the back or underneath something, whatever. I've also got to design a cooling system for both the reservoir and the top of that. I'm probably going to just use PC cooling system components and do a radiator system of sorts with fans on top to keep the contacts cooler. For wiring, if you're going to build something like this, I would also recommend using 8 or 10 gauge wiring, because anything smaller than that will not hold up to the 20 to 30 amp current, regardless. And that I will say from experience, because yeah, I went through 3 different thicknesses of wire before I figured, yeah, I better do some mathematics and use my skills that I learned at SATE 2 decades ago and figure things out. And yeah, I came out 8 to 10 gauge wiring is best to use on this thing. And that's the other thing I'm waiting on, is some more wiring so I can actually put this where it's supposed to be instead of on the back seat. That being said, it does work. Works great. It just sprung a leak, so I had to epoxy everything. And I did a really crappy job epoxying, but it didn't leak after that. So we're good. Again, overall design uses 4-inch PVC with cap, cleaning access cap, 16 plates, Center plates are all the plates are based off of 22 gauge steel. Recommendation stainless steel if you'd build this. Basically, the way they're set up is nut, plate, spacer, plate, nut, and that just goes all the way through. The spacers can be rubber, plastic, anything that'll hold up to the acidic nature of stuff like potassium hydroxide or potassium chloride, yada, yada, yada. Sealants, you can use your regular tape sealer. I have liquid seal all over the place here because automotive stuff, so I use that. Would not recommend any nylon, probably something thicker. I know this clear line you see here that's crimped off because this isn't installed right now and I need my AC. That line will be replaced with a 5/16 fuel line, mainly because it'll hold up to the heat better because the exhaust is right there, and also because, well, it's more reliable and I can do more with it. And I've got lots of it for some reason. So there you have it, guys. A hydrogen generator that I was using on this Jeep. Just modifying it, fixing it up, filling leaky holes. I'll post videos of it actually working in this system later. I actually have a few-second video of it running outside the vehicle. I'll probably post that as well, but there you have it. A hydrogen generator that actually works in a vehicle that anybody can build.